My name is Stephen McChutchan, a Presbyterian pastor for over 50 years, and I want to introduce to you an approach to anti-racism that you might want to use in your own church. Most people listening to this would agree that racism is a horrible virus that affects and distorts not only our society but our churches. And when you read about the history of churches in which they defended slavery, trying to use the Bible to do so, you're embarrassed at their attitude and behavior. Because you and I would agree that racism and racial structures that exist in our society contradict the gospel that we are called upon to proclaim. Now, some of you have acted aggressively on those beliefs, but most of us feel like it would be good to have a strategy that enables us to guide our people in that direction. Because as a pastor, we believe that the church is more than just a club of nice people. That we're called together to and given gifts by God to do something in this society, and that we want to be part of that which advances the gospel in our society. I mean, think about it. Which of these headlines would you most like to see in a prominent newspaper? 1, a local church refuses to address racism in our society. Or 2, a church recognizes its racism and is awed by God's invitation. You know, a Barna poll that surveyed lots of churches across the structure of churches in this country found that 2/3 of the membership of our churches agree that the church should help racial division and easing of those structures of racism. And 43% of the entire society agrees that churches should address the causes of racial division in our society. What I want to offer you is a strategy that is spiritually based, offers clear steps for how our leadership might provide guidance to our membership, and invites participation of the entire membership, as well as creatively responding to the tensions in a way that offers an opportunity for our members to grow in faith and enables us as pastors to help our churches build a vision of hope and healing. And not only that, but can enable us to join with other churches to make a positive approach and a healing strategy to the racial divisions of our society. My suggestions won't be perfect, and we'll need to make adjustments as we go along. But I own the fact that you and I both know that if we do this, we'll encounter some criticism from members and even other churches who are offended by the fact that we are challenging structures from which they benefit. One of the ways that you might approach this whole thing is to gather some other clergy together who are interested, and maybe even do a book study of a book like Shock and Awe, A Church Recognizes Racism and Awed by God's Invitation. That's a novel, and it tells a story, but it tells a story of how a church engaged in that process. And then having done that, you can invite the clergy to decide if they too want to participate in a way that enables them to advance the cause of anti-racism and proclaim the faith in doing so. And then once you agree on which churches are wanting to involve themselves in this, you'll need to address the leadership of your churches. And I can offer you a guide by which you can take step by step to engage the leadership of the churches, and each of the clergy can participate in that process. And then, of course, you need to involve the membership of the churches. This is not something you preach towards them. This is something you draw out of them as they identify through a process of surveys and the internet, as well as conversation, about how their faith does, in fact, enable them to speak about and therefore speak to the issues created by racism. And then once you do that, of course, the next step will be, if the different churches are involved in this, then you can have them bring themselves together for conversations that enable you to develop a concrete strategy by which you can make a witness in society. And therefore the headlines are that God addresses racism